I'm Heather Nguyen. I'm the founder and I'm the practitioner at Arizona Healing Alternatives. And I want to talk to you guys today about applied kinesiology, or what's also called muscle testing. How many of you heard of it? Fantastic. Okay. I used to come into rooms when I was giving this talk several years ago, and most people are like, what? What is that? And so, but by way of a background, we're going to talk about applied kinesiology, and we're going to talk about what is it, first of all, and then what specifically can it do for you. And then what's going to be so much fun is I'm going to teach you some cute little tricks that you guys can do at home. So that'll be a whole lot of fun. So by way of a background, oh, hello. Oh, how about that? Perfect. So I graduated nursing school in 1991. And then I went back to nurse practitioner school in 1995. And truly, I was perfectly content, and I tend to pace. So I was perfectly content being a nurse practitioner. And I really enjoyed it, loved it. And then I started having some issues. So when I started out, I started having some problems. Now, how many of you had a urinary tract infection? And you don't have to raise your hand, but people are like, oh yeah, absolutely. Okay. When you've had something like that, it's very painful, very uncomfortable. Now, I was a women's healthcare nurse practitioner. So as a women's healthcare nurse practitioner, I was treating women with urinary tract infections every single day. And what we would do in Western medicine is we would give you the antibiotics, and then hopefully it goes away. But what happens is you have it again. Okay. Well, the rule was at that time, after 3 infections, you actually put somebody on suppressive antibiotics. So what is that? That means half the dose of the regular antibiotic. People are shaking their head. Half the dose of a regular antibiotic you would take to prevent it. Fine. So now I have to admit, as a nurse practitioner, we tend to like to tell everybody else what to do, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we want to follow our own advice, correct? Okay, so doctors and nurses make the worst patients. Well, I'm kind of opposite of that. I tend to be very, 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 very compliant. If I'm supposed to do something, I do it. So I was doing everything right. I'm drinking all the water, and I'm not drinking caffeine, and doing all this stuff. And then every single time I would try to get off of the suppressive antibiotics, 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm up with another urinary tract infection. A lot of fun. So basically, at that point, I had a friend of mine said, it was probably about a year of this, going off and on and doing this. So after about a year, I had a friend say to me, well, and this is in the 1990s, guys. Okay, so 1990s, said to me, oh, well, you know what you really need to do? I have this friend, and she's an acupuncturist, and why don't you go and see her? Really? This is the 1990s. Okay. So I went, okay, if that works for you, have fun, but that's not scientific. Oh, do you need some help? Yes. Welcome. Come on in. So basically then I said, why should I go? What is this, acupuncture and herbs or whatever? I'm not going to do that. But then I kept going, and I kept having problems. And y'all know that when you get desperate, right, what are you going to do? So I got really desperate, and I decided I would go and see this acupuncturist. And I walk in, and she says, can I see your tongue, please? Well, okay. For me, it's like, let me look at your tonsils, right? But she looked at my tongue, and she's staring at it. I'm like, it's my tongue. And then what she did was she started taking my pulse. Now, I'm sorry, in Western medicine, fast or slow, right? Is it fast? Is it slow? What is it, right? But she's like feeling around and doing all this stuff, right? And so she goes, well, you're toxic on antibiotics. Going toxic on antibiotics. And so she says, you're toxic on antibiotics, so we're going to take you off the antibiotics, and we're going to give you these Chinese herbal pills and some herbal tea that you make at home. And I looked at her and I said, with all due respect, who am I calling at 3 o'clock in the morning when I go off my antibiotics and I'm in pain? And she wrote down on a Post-it note her home phone and handed it to me. You would think that that would make me feel more relaxed and comfortable. I looked at her and I said, well, I'll talk to you at 3 a.m. Okay. And so wouldn't it be great if I were your patient? Yeah, really good. But at any rate, so I went home, and I only have myself to blame if I don't do what she advises, right? So I went home, and I went off the antibiotics, and I started taking my little herbal pills, and I woke up Not at 3 a.m. I woke up, I slept through the night. And I woke up and I was mad. I was mad because it was working. Because I was determined to prove this stuff wrong, because this stuff isn't scientific. We're not going to do this, right? But it worked. And when it worked, it was truly my wake-up call into a new world, right? And that was the beginning. So what I decided to do was I actually took some training in the Pacific College. It was called Oriental Medicine at that time. They changed it to the Pacific College of Health and Science. And I took some training on what this medicine was and to learn that it was quite scientific. But basically, the next step in my journey was, if I didn't think that herbs and all that stuff were weird enough, then she starts grabbing my arm and she starts testing me and holding points on my body and going, oh, well, we have to deal with some emotional issues and we have to deal with some physical issues and we need to do this. And I was like, okay, if I thought looking at my tongue and taking my pulse weren't weird enough, now we're doing this. And so she taught a layperson's version of how to do applied kinesiology. And when we come up, what's the difference between the two, right? Because have you heard that interchangeably? People said, oh, I'm going to use kinesiology when they really mean applied kinesiology. Well, kinesiology actually is the study of movement, okay? So there are kinesiologists and there are many physical therapists. Have you guys heard of kinesiotaping? That kind of stuff. Right. So that is actually, kinesiology is study of movement, and based on that study, things that you can do and exercises and things that you can do. But applied kinesiology is a way of testing a muscle to see if there's something going on within the body and then trying to clear up energy blockages or things like that. And it's funny that we use energy, that term, because in Chinese medicine, have you heard of meridians and movement of qi? Okay. Movement of qi in Western terms is energy. But if you were talking to someone from China, they would think you were weird because it's actually a substance that, of course, can it be proven? Not really, but we'll go into that in a minute. But with applied kinesiology, the way I look at it is, if I'm thinking about it in Western medical terms, I think of it as similar to a reflex. So for example, if you take your finger and you stick it on a hot stove, I can't recommend it, but if you do that, what happens? There is a nerve, I'm trying to keep my mic up here. There's a nerve that goes from the finger, travels up through the spinal cord into the brain. Brain says, that hurts, please stop that. Okay. And so it sends another nerve from brain down to the muscles. They contract. So like a reflex. So similar to that with touch, if you're touching certain points on the body, you can elicit what's called bioenergetic information, and then you can try to change what the body does with that. So an example of this is the applied kinesiology, like I was telling you with my acupuncturist. She actually taught a layperson's version of how to do what's called total body modification. Now, there are multiple ways of using applied kinesiology. If you guys have ever been in a chiropractor's office, sometimes they'll use it just to see the position of a muscle, what's going on. Yep, shaking head, fantastic. And then some people use it in different frameworks. So the framework I'm going to talk about is applied kinesiology in total body modification. So what is it? TBM was invented by a chiropractor in 1974. His wife was a nurse, Diane. She's a wonderful woman. Come on in. And Diane had an ectopic pregnancy, which is a pregnancy in the tube instead of in the uterus. And when that happened, and if that bursts, that can kill you because you bleed to death. Okay. Well, she had that. She went into the hospital and they gave her tons of antibiotics. And what ended up happening was she ended up having leukemia some time later. Okay. Now, Victor Frank was her husband, who is the chiropractor I'm talking about. He was also a DO. He was also a naturopath. I don't think the man, there was any degree he didn't hold. It was just amazing to me. But he was studying with the founding fathers of applied kinesiology at that time, Goddard and some other people like that. And what drove him nuts was that it took forever to get a result in a body, to get all the stuff moving around and get the body to turn on and heal itself. When we talk about the body turning on and healing itself, that's kind of different from a Western medicine perspective. Because a Western medicine perspective, as a nurse practitioner, you'd come into my office, I'd listen to what's going on, and then I'd put it through my training of what I think is going on, and that's called the differential diagnosis. And then we go on and treat for it, right? What's fun about applied kinesiology is that we're getting energetic information from your body that your body's kind of telling me what's wrong with it, which is super fun. I'm sorry, it really is. But basically, what Victor did was his wife said, okay, I have leukemia. I'm not going to do chemo. So save my life. No pressure, right? So Victor starts playing around with all these points and different things and with all of his knowledge base. What he ended up doing was creating total body modification by putting a bunch of different stuff together. And when he did that, he saved his wife's life, okay? And so they were, let's see, he passed away in 2010, and it was like the 50 years of marriage, when couples kind of pass really close to each other, over 50 years, that's kind of how that happened. But he was absolutely amazing. So what does it mix? All right, well, total body modification, since he was a chiropractors, if you don't know what their main focus is chiropractors are interested in the structure of the spine and alignment of spine. Does that make sense? Y'all kind of know that? Right. So when you align the spine, then the nerves come out from it, and then it innervates the organs and other parts of the body, and then the body can turn on and heal itself. Okay. But if we're looking at Chinese medicine and movement of qi, when you get an acupuncture treatment, what happens is these lines of energy, that's a whole nother lecture because it really isn't in China. It's not considered that. But anyway, when we talk about energy, if you're putting in a needle into a certain meridian or energy channel, depending on how you put it in, it will move that. And the movement of qi, if qi gets stuck in one area, then it needs to move that around for the body to turn on and heal itself in a similar way that chiropractic will align so that the nerves innervate and the body turns on and heals itself. Well, Victor's theory was that everything's the brain. That if we reprogram the brain through this muscle testing and applied kinesiology, that the brain will turn on and the body will start to heal itself. Okay? So what's fun about it is he uses different reflex points, different structure. I know when I was being trained by him, and my story on that is my practitioner, I told you, taught a layperson's version of how to do applied kinesiology out of her house. So I was still a patient at this time, desperately trying to prove that this was not accurate and this was not scientific. And so she taught this layperson's version how to do it out of her house. Fine. I wasn't doing anything on a weekend, so I went. And then I started practicing on people. So let's say you had a sore throat. This is how I would approach people. Walk in and go, I could be in the neighborhood, let's say you live next door, like, oh, really? Got a sore throat? Okay. Well, this isn't going to work, but here, if you want me to try this really bizarre woo-woo stuff or whatever, here, I'm just going to do this and it's not going to work. So I'm trying to psychologically set this person up for it not to work because it works on me, fine, but that doesn't mean as a nurse practitioner back in the 1990s that I'm going to go announce this to the world, right? So I would do that. And then you'd look at me and go, my sore throat's gone. And I'm irritated again because basically it's working. So some of us are kind of stubborn, and it took me about 8 to 10 years, probably closer to 10 years of playing around on people like this, all over, doing whatever, and it's still working. And finally, my best friend looked at me and said, Heather, how much more time do you need to know that this works? And I'm so glad that I got off my high horse and actually went and got trained when Viktor Frankl was still alive in 2002. And he passed away in 2010. So when it comes to this, part of it is structure. When Victor was training us, he would say, okay, non-chiropractors on this side of the room and chiropractors on this side of the room. And he would say, for non-chiropractors, here's some gentle aligning that you can do to get the spine to align without having to do full-on spinal manipulation. So I look at TBM as sort of a mix between chiropractic care without full-on spinal manipulation and acupuncture without using needles. And so to give you an idea of what this looks like, that's a chart, okay? So there's a lot of arrows and cute things on it, right? But basically what it means is there are different ways of holding your hand or holding fingers. And so this is showing, okay, is it this way? Is it this way? Different points. And then what's happening is, let's say it's the gallbladder, okay, which is the gallbladder point. So if I get a weak muscle response while I'm holding that, then the gallbladder innervates off of thoracic vertebrae 4. And then all I have to do is rub on those points, have you take a deep breath, right? and it resets the brain to say, hey, the gallbladder's offline. And so if we can put it online like a computer, then the body can turn on and heal that gallbladder, right? Now, I tell my patients this. I say, it's not like if I check your gallbladder and I get a weak response, that means you need to go get your gallbladder removed, like in Western medicine. That's not what it means at all. It just means that it's not doing what it needs to be doing. We need to get it online so that the body can turn on and heal itself. So that gives you an idea of that. Well, I'm practicing on people, and what's so fun about it is that there are expanded uses of total body modification. So what you can do with that is, one of his students went on and said, wait a minute, we know that in Chinese medicine, every organ has an emotion attached to it. And so why can't we muscle test strong or weak response? Why can't we muscle test and with emotions reprogram someone emotionally? And so that is a whole lot of fun. And then I went on, and fortunately after I was trained doing that, I went on and became certified in clinical hypnosis, because I kind of mix a whole bunch of stuff all together. But TBM is constantly evolving and changing. If we want to think about emotions and we want to think about what does that have to do with health, which I think most of you, you're here this weekend really expanding on that with knowledge with that. But one of the interesting things is, have you noticed, and I know everyone wants to talk about COVID, but to me, have you noticed since COVID, a lot of people are on edge prior to COVID anyway, right? And some people say that people are on edge now post-COVID because of all the isolation stuff. And I'm not talking about politics. I'm not talking about any of that stuff. What I'm talking about is, have you noticed that people are a lot more agitated and irritated since COVID? And it's not just because of circumstance, right? Why is that? Well, what's so interesting is that the emotions of the liver, which COVID, this is something we hadn't seen when we're muscle testing and trying to get people past COVID and get them over it faster, using muscle testing and different things, was it goes to the liver. Liver. Okay, so I'm in a networking group where I have there's a nurse practitioner run clinic that's in there. And I was at one of the meetings and I said, what is it with this thing and liver? Because it's like sore throat, liver. Sore throat shouldn't be liver. Sore throat should be your parotid glands, your salivary glands, things like that. So it's fascinating to me watching this all play out, that the emotions of the liver are anger, frustration. Interesting. So when you treat COVID, what I'm doing, or if it gets treated or whatever you want to do with that, oftentimes it'll be calmer, but it's still, what was funny was that nurse practitioner run clinic said, wait a minute, thank you for saying that, because I'm running all of these labs on post-COVID patients, and their liver enzymes are elevated. Have you guys heard about that? Right. So it's fascinating. So everything works together, emotions, physical, all that stuff. So at any rate, it can be used for all sorts of different things. And then, how accurate is this, right? Have you heard that? How accurate is muscle testing? All right. Well, because I have to learn on myself, right? As I was working with my acupuncturist and we started working on other issues, she starts telling me that, your gallbladder has some issues that we need to work on. I'm thinking at this point, my gallbladder is fine. She must want more money, right? Right. Western medicine thinking, right? Okay, so she must want more money. Well, then I was so excited because I was really going to prove this stuff wrong, because I had had my blood work done a week before I saw her. Remember, this is in the 1990s. A week before I saw her, had my annual exam, had my blood work. And when we did the blood work, I've never been anemic a day in my life. And anemia is the red blood cells, and there's less red blood cells. And so oftentimes there's different types of anemia, but it can be due to iron deficiency, right? So I had my labs done. I come in the next week and she tells me we've got gallbladder issues, does the muscle testing, and this is the point for it, and said, you're anemic. I was super ecstatic. Because I'm like, see, this stuff's inaccurate. Because I had my labs done, last week, and I've never been anemic a day in my life. This stuff is garbage. And so I waltzed my little self out of the office, thanked her, paid her, left. 3 weeks later, I'm in the emergency room for my first gallbladder attack. So I'm in the emergency room, and the physician comes in and says, yeah, we got to talk about your gallbladder, but you're really anemic. And I was really, really irritated. And I said, what? I said, I'm anemic. I said, I'm sorry. Can I see that result? Because I want to make sure it's my date of birth on that thing and my name, because there's no way. I just had my labs done like 3 to 4 weeks ago. And he goes, no, look, here it is. So Viktor Frank's theory was that muscle testing can pick up when the body's 1% to 2% dysfunctional versus a blood test, the body has to be at least 40% dysfunctional. What did we just prove? Muscle testing was picking it up, even though my labs were normal. And when I was seeing patients who are perimenopausal as a nurse practitioner, and they would come in going, oh my God, I'm hot flashing every 5 minutes. I can't stand this anymore. We've got to do something. I'm like, well, your labs are all normal. Okay, right? So we all know these examples, but to me, it had to prove itself. So at any rate, what's really fun is that it can be used for all sorts of different things. It can be used for pain, anxiety, allergies, you name it. And then it can also, what I love about it is it doesn't interfere with anybody else. That's what I love. I send patients to chiropractors all the time because if I'm doing structural corrections on someone and it's not taking care of it, chiropractors have a lot more tools up their sleeve than I do. Okay. But I have some people who just use me for chiropractic, which is okay, fine. But ultimately it can be used for all sorts of different things. So now what can it be used for you specifically? Well, let's take a look. Can I have a member of the audience come up forward, please? Okay. Oh, awesome. Cool. I'm going to try to do this on the microphone in hand. Hi, I'm Heather. Nita. Hi, Nina. Nice to meet you. Okay. So a way to do this is if you put your arm up, a way to practice this is so you don't need to slam somebody's arm down, right? Okay. So as I'm doing this, okay, what you're going to do is every time you feel me, you're just going to resist. Perfect. That's all it takes. Okay. So you can say your name. So say, my name is, and say your name.
My name is Nita.
Okay. Don't let me push that arm down. See how strong that is? Now say, my name is Heather.
My name is Heather.
Don't let me push it down. See, it's like, okay, she knows what her name is. Okay, so yes, okay. So that's exactly it. So what I want you guys to do, if you can, stand or sit, doesn't matter. Grab the person's arm next to you, however you want to do it. A little trick. Try saying what your name is, my name is, in this strong response versus a weak response. See what you get. Isn't that fun? I know, you get the looks of, oh, wow. Yeah, that's exactly it. Good. All right, why don't I have you guys take a seat because I want to show you all these different things, but that gives you an idea of it, right? Is that anyway, thank you so much for coming up. That gives you an idea of the difference in strength, right? So then I have people, so let's talk about what can you do with it, right? All right, so I get asked this question all the time. Can I muscle test myself at home? Can I do this? Because you can test supplements, you can test all sorts of different things with this. Now, I haven't asked this question. Can it be used as a lie detector test? Like, is he cheating? Is she cheating? It's like, okay, no. Okay, because what happens is if I can't break down someone else's defenses, right? So even a patient in my office, if somebody is in my office and I'm testing them and there's an emotional issue that we want to get to and do some reprogramming on, if their body isn't ready to go there, we're not going to get anywhere. There are some little techniques I can try to do to help with that, but it's the same thing. So it's the same thing as you can power down anybody's arm, right? But when you muscle test yourself, it can be very helpful, and there's a bunch of different ways to do it. But ultimately, truly, Viktor Frank said it too. He even said to us practitioners, because other learning lessons, right? So once my gallbladder stuff, I still kept my gallbladder still to this day. But with the gallbladder stuff, when I learned how to do the layperson's version and how to do this and ran around correcting the whole neighborhood, right? Well, I learned how to correct my own gallbladder. Well, I had taken that course prior to me walking out of her office, and my gallbladder did keep going out, but I kept correcting it. Okay, if an organ keeps going out, you don't just keep correcting it, there's something wrong. Okay, so I had to learn that too and ended up in the emergency room learning that lesson, right? So the problem is when you are muscle testing yourself is that you have a bias, right? It's similar to if I'm working on my family members, right? I have to kind of separate myself to test. Similar if you're testing yourself, you almost have to step back from yourself to do it, which is kind of hard to do because we're biased. We want a certain answer. So I always recommend teach a friend or whatever, but sometimes friends are biased too, right? So can it be helpful? Absolutely. But you got to be cautious with it. You don't want to end up in the ER because you're correcting your gallbladder all the time. All right. So now let's go through some really fun stuff because I'm like I'm running out of time. So concentration, there's a cute little technique, and I'm going to put this down. Hello. Okay. So there's a cute technique. Cross your arms. Perfect. Underneath your collarbone in the center, I want you guys to tap for me and take some deep breaths and let it out. So what that's doing is when you tap like that, it can help in concentration. But what happens is, you can stop doing that if you'd like. What happens is this side of the brain has to talk to this side of the body and vice versa, right? We know that in Western medicine. What if you're talking this way? If you're talking that way, then it's like, where are my keys? Okay, where did I leave this? Sorry, my age group, I'm 57. So it's like, okay, where are my keys? What am I doing, right? So that can really help. And I know students use it too for tests. Ooh, I forget. And they do that. So try that. That's another little trick that you can use at home. Emotional calming. So in the same way that you were using fingers here, there are right above the eyebrow, in the center of the eyebrow, if you feel that little ridge, that little bump. Okay, I'm going to show you. Put down the mic. Fingers, slide them up. So you cross. The reason you're crossing is when you cross, you force the brain to talk to the right side of the brain, right? So now, put that there in that ridge. Close your eyes. Take some deep breaths for me. And then don't tap. That was really good. I'm glad she tapped. Because that reminded me. Thank you for doing that, actually. Because what I forgot to say was this one is not tapping, and you'll know why in a minute. Okay, you can stop doing that. Did anybody feel anything? People can say, hey, it feels like my fingers on my forehead. Awesome. That's awesome. Because what that is these are the emotion points of the forehead. So when you do that and you place it, now if you're tapping, we're stimulating, right? So we're stimulating. This is great because, oh, where are my keys, right? But if we're just holding in those areas and you take those deep breaths, even if you didn't feel anything, over time, it's helping the nervous system just calm and calm down. So it's called an emotional overwhelm technique, but you don't have to be overwhelmed to use it. Okay, you're having a bad day? Want to reach for that sugar? Try that first, okay, before you reach for the sugar. It'll hype you up, however. Okay. Next, opening your chakras is so fascinating. You could, and I always recommend meditation, but you can meditate or you could do this in 2 seconds and it can help. Very easy. All you have to do, hand here, up over your head. That opens up your chakra systems. I love easy, right? Okay, so that's a cool little trick. That's it. That's all it is. And it'll open them right up. Okay, so when I have you on the table, what were you going to say? Doesn't matter. That's so good. Thank you for asking that question. Absolutely. So there's that. Neural circuits are a lot of fun. How am I doing on time?
Then he said that 15 minutes.
15 minutes? Oh, wow. That's awesome. Cool. Okay, so I'm like, wait. Okay, so now with the opening the neural circuits, this one's fascinating to me because what you do, you take your right hand to right shoulder, over to left shoulder. So you're going to go right, left, down, up. Okay. Now here's the interesting thing. Okay. Because that means the neural circuits are all firing and doing what they need to be doing. Right. Well, what's fascinating about that is, and this is not a statement against religion at all. Please, that is my disclaimer because it's not. But it's the opposite of the Catholic cross, which is interesting, okay? Because I have lots and lots of Catholic patients. So I would say to them, I would go, okay, so if you are going into service, can you do that real quick? They're like, no, they'll think I flunked Sunday school. I'm like, okay, so go in because I've tested that when somebody does the other one, which is, what is it, up, down, left, right, that their muscle will go weak, which is an interesting thing because one of my clients, because I love my patients because they teach me stuff every day. Y'all do. It's wonderful. And one of them said, you know what? The original Catholic cross in the very beginning wasn't the one that is now, and did that one, and that doesn't shut down the neural circuits. So I don't get it. But either way, so I said, fine, go in, go to service, come on out, and then you go right, left, down, up. You're done. When you're in your car, secretly, right? So right, left, down, up. That's it. Okay? Absolutely. Right, left, down, up. Okay, so similar to chakras open, neural circuits on, right, left, down, up. Fascinating stuff. Because you're like, can it be that easy? You know what I mean? It's like, really? Okay, so then jet lag. This one's fun. Okay, so we don't change time clocks here in Arizona, but even if you go 2 or 3 hours difference somewhere else, right? There is an acupuncture point called spleen 21. Okay, that's not really important. What's important is where is it located? Okay, so where it's located is there's a difference between your armpit. Okay, it's on the left side of the body, and then you can feel the bottom part of the rib cage, right? So there's a halfway point, because so can you guys feel the bone, and then you feel the space in between the bone? That's called the intercostal space. Okay, so if you feel down, and there's this point, and the one above it is not going to be as painful. The one when you're on it, it's like, okay, that's it. It hurts. Can you guys find that kind of tender point? Okay, so the correction is, and I'm going to tell you how to use it, but the correction is you're going to rub on that point for 30 seconds, and it hurts. Okay, you're going to rub on that point for 30 seconds, and then spread your ears. Okay, don't recommend doing that in public. Okay, all right, so with that, now when do you use that, right? So let's say you're on a plane, you're going to a different time zone, and when you get to that different time zone, then it's nighttime. Well, we don't want to wake up. It's nighttime, right? So even though you're probably not sleeping, what you want to do is go to your hotel, whatever, your home, wherever you are, and then when you wake up in the morning, before you even get out of bed, so not touching feet to the floor, nothing like that. You open your eyes, and it's morning time where you're supposed to be getting up, rubbing that for 30 seconds, spreading the ears, then go about your day and get up. That will help with jet lag, okay? Now, if you land and it's morning, so if you land and it's morning, before you even get off the airplane, do it. I know people are going to look at you weird, but it's just about as weird as when you muscle test yourself in a store with supplements. I'm just saying. So what you want to do, that before you get off the plane, that will help you with jet lag. Okay. And then catching up on sleep. So for this, I teach people this because oftentimes we're on fight or flight all the time, right? Yeah, that's kind of how we live, right? We're living off adrenaline. Well, if you're having trouble sleeping or there are other things going on, then what you can do, and we'll see, because I'm on fight or flight because I'm giving a talk. So let's see. Pelvic bones. Now, you can see this one's higher. You guys see that? Okay. I'm giving a top. This one's higher. Okay. So when you got that at home, now it's best not to do this standing up. It's best not to do it standing up. What's really the best way is to be laying on the floor and have somebody over you telling you which hip is higher. Okay, so this hip, as you guys know, is higher to my head. This is lower to my feet, right? So it's best if you have somebody to do that, because if you were laying down, it's hard to tell when you're laying down yourself and you're trying to look. So you can do this with a pair of shoes, all right? What you're going to do, and I'm going to put the mic down. These are called little chiropractic wedges. Y'all have seen these probably. But basically, what you're going to want to do, this is my higher hip, right? So from the back, I want this pointing down, right? Then that bone, that pelvic bone comes out here, right about its area. You see that makes a diagonal? Okay, and what that's doing is it's going to push very gently. You're laying on it, it's going to push and gently align that, okay? And that's a way to do it. Flip over your tennis shoes and do it at home, okay? And when you do that, so I have people, oh my gosh, they can't sleep at night. I'm like, you're up anyway. Go ahead and do that. Put those things in. Now, obviously, it goes the other direction. If this one were higher, then it's going to go like that. Does that make sense? So it just depends on which one's higher. It is the fastest way to take a power nap ever invented. I usually start patient sessions with that because the issue is if I'm doing corrections on somebody and you're in fight or flight, we're not going to get anywhere. So I got to get the body relaxed first, then do corrections. And then we finish sessions, usually with that's called category 4. And we finish sessions with that. And the reason we finish sessions with that is because we want to save the information to the hard drive and get you back into relaxation. I have some patients who are like, I'm not seeing you to the end of my day because they feel so relaxed when they leave. They're like, I don't want to go back to work, right? Okay, so there's some fun things on that. And then one of my patients was very kind enough to say this about, kind of gives you an idea of different things that this can do. So let's see if it works.
Hi, everyone. My name is Michelle D'Angelio. I am a patient of Heather Lenz. Been seeing Heather for about 4 months, and I can honestly say that the events really changed my life. I originally went to see Heather for allergies after my sister had told me that she had a really great session with her and that she actually didn't have cat allergies anymore. And I was a little skeptical about that because I've known that she's been allergic to cats severely since we were kids. So when she came with me to the vet with my cat and was holding him and everything went to the vet, and she said, I feel absolutely nothing. That's when I said, I think I'm going to go see Heather for that too, because I also have allergies like that. And from the minute you walk in the door, Heather just makes you feel like you've known her for years. She's very warm, very understanding, a great listener. And after talking for a while, I was telling her about some other issues that I had that I didn't even think she could help with. And through our discussion, she had let me know that she can, and we were going to try it. I have been dealing with Lyme's disease for actually since I was 16 years old, but it's would have gotten worse over the past few years, to the point where I have arthritis, I have numbness and tingling in my hands, legs, pain in my knees, and the list goes on. And when I told her about this, she said, we're going to work on this, and I really didn't know if anything would come out of it. And after a few weeks of going, I honestly was blown away by the fact that I really did not have any of these symptoms anymore. And so I just really can't even tell you how exciting that is to even to be on antibiotics for almost 2 years now and still have the symptoms. That what Heather does, I don't understand, but it really, really helps me. So I would like to have other people know more about it and to give it a try, because I don't think that people really know that she's there and what she does. So if you are having any kind of health issues, emotional issues, honestly, I would really get Heather a chance and just see the training that she help you with, because I think you'll be surprised in the end, as I was. And actually almost my whole entire family now goes to see Heather because we all have something to get fixed by her, and it's great. So please give her a try.
So I'm just really thrilled that after doing this and doing this type of work, to me, it was so much fun to do it that I actually retired my nurse and my nurse practitioner license, because this is all I do. It's so much fun letting your body tell me what's going on, and it can be used for so many different things. And so truly I called it my journey from Western to woo-woo, because truly it's like I never imagined in a million years that I would be talking in front of folks like yourselves about this stuff. But it's just, Viktor Frankl, I'm so grateful to him, because bodies are constantly growing, changing, and doing things that's similar to COVID. When it came along, within 2 weeks, we're all in touch with each other as practitioners because they're TBM, but Victor's dream was to see a TBM practitioner at hand in every single state by 2072. And that's what we're hoping happens, because as the bodies grow and change, we kept getting protocols for COVID, like every 2 weeks. Okay, now do this, now try this, now try this, because bodies change. Our medicine never stays static in what we're doing. So any questions, guys? And thank you so much for coming in and listening. Any questions? Somebody left a supplement here before. So, hey, isn't that convenient? That's so awesome. You want to come on up? Either one. Anybody can come on up. I'll show you what to do. Now, I'll show you what to do on a person, like if I'm testing you, but I'll show you different ways. That's a great one. So now, and try to do this. Does somebody have like a Fitbit, or their phone, a phone that doesn't have a protector on it too? I want to show that too. Can somebody hold the mic so that I can, I'm telling, audience participation, man. Yes, perfect. All right.
Do you want to like talk?
Thanks. Yeah. So basically, I know, I'm that sad. You're like, I came here to listen to this and you're putting me on.
No, this is perfect.
Okay. So first of all, the supplement's down, right? Okay. I put it over there. Perfect. So I started doing this on people because it was disturbing me about electromagnetic field protection. That's a whole nother topic of conversation, which I love to talk to people about. But basically, you feel how strong her muscle is right now? Now let's see how strong it is as I get it closer to her body. You see this? By the time her cell phone gets here, that's a problem. So that's a whole nother lecture on electromagnetic field protection. But you asked the question of, thank you so much. You asked the question, because I had somebody who had a Fitbit on and was having palpitations and stuff. They took it off and it stopped. It doesn't mean we stop using our equipment. It means we got to be protected from it. So hold that to the center of your chest. If I'm testing her supplement, right. So the first thing I'm testing is there an allergy to it? No. Okay. Does your body need that? It likes that. Okay. Go ahead and hold it. Need every 1-2 days. Okay. Number of needed. 2, 3, use. 3. Okay. So I'm getting 2 a day. I have no idea what the thing is on there. It says 1 capsule. And what does it say? Suggested use, take 8 ounces and descend directed by healthcare. 2 capsules per day. Okay. So basically that's what your body wants, but let's say you're doing it on yourself. Okay. So you can muscle test yourself in several ways. Okay. Some people do it with their finger, like strong, weak. Okay. I'm too concrete for that, although I do that in my practice sometimes. But I'll take my whole arm or half an arm to do it. I'll hold it and I'll be like, okay, I'm trying to push my arm down. Can you guys see that? So I'm trying to push it down. I'll go, okay, body's not allergic to it. Because if it is, there's clearing that we do in TBM to clear it. But you can do this. And then I'll be like, okay, do I need it? Oh, I don't need it. Okay, that's nice. So I'm probably on a bunch of protease anyway. So do I need that? No. Okay. Would I use it? So, but you can do it that way. Some people will have a friend hold it, to do that. Do you want to try that on yourself to see if you can do it? Because it's hard.
But Sam, like, how do you even?
So the way I'd start, exactly. You can test it that way.
So if it's strong, it means I need it, right?
If it's strong, it depends on what you're asking. So that's an excellent question. So first of all, you could ask it and say, okay, do I need that? That would be a yes. So she's saying, no, you can switch that up. She could make weak as a yes. It doesn't matter. It's whatever your intention is. So it's saying yes. Okay, so that was good. You got the strong on that. Can you count it out? Like to 1, and I'll hold it. Here.
What am I asking?
You're asking the number it needs. So count it. 1, 2, then 3. You feel it go weak? Did you guys see that? You're doing great. Oh my gosh, you're on the spot. You're doing great. But that's exactly it. Her body needed 2. So some people will do it that way. Some people will do it this way. It just depends. You have to practice with it. But then, just get used to somebody be like, hey, I'm in aisle 3. That person in aisle 3, just avoid that aisle because I don't know what they're doing. Okay. So, but it's a great way you can clear out people from the aisle if you don't want people around. But did that answer the question? Okay, cool. Excellent. That's great. So glad he left him in here. What's that? Yeah. Yeah, because you need it. Wait, here. There's it. See, I'm telling you. All right. Any other questions you guys have? Yes.
What are some cool displays? Is that
Coolest one ever? God, I'm so fortunate. Thank you, Victor. I'm so fortunate that I've had several, but one of the coolest things I think I've ever seen was when COVID first came out, because I do remote sessions as well, and I thought that was nuts. That's another story. I thought that was nuts. But I was at a conference and somebody had a cold. This was years ago when I was first starting into the 2000s. And somebody called and said, and said, oh yeah, I have a cold. I'm like, oh, I'm at a conference. I'll put you in on the schedule on Monday, but I'm at a conference. And I hang up the phone because we were on a break. When I hung up the phone, the practitioners in the room looked at me and said, you can do that over the phone, right? Like, oh, come on. Okay. Taught me how to do it. I called the patient back and said, I'm not going to charge you because I think this is not going to work at all. But here, if you want me to work on it, I'll do it. And I'll put you on the schedule. Did it. She canceled her appointment on Monday because within 2 hours, her cold was gone. I'm like, wow. So, but I've seen MS lesions go into remission. I've seen, and I didn't believe it because I'm still skeptical to this day when I'm testing vials on patients and stuff. It's a little game I still play with myself after all these years. I won't look at them because I don't want to put it through my bias. Oh, it can't be this. And I had somebody who tested for jellyfish. I'm like, really? And I looked at him and said, sorry, we got to clear you for jellyfish. I'm so sorry, but I trust the body and it's saying jellyfish. And the person looked at me and said, you know what? I used to be a surfer. I got stung 1,000,000 times by jellyfish. So all this stuff every day to me, what I do, to me, I don't go to work. I go to have fun because your body is teaching me things every single day. But I think I've been very fortunate that I've seen a lot of really cool things thanks to the wonderful practitioners at TBM and teaching us. So. Similar to Diane, Victor Frank's wife, who said, I'm not doing chemo. I'm not saying that Western medicine is bad because to me, if I cut my arm off, I'm not looking for an acupuncturist. There's times and places for every single medicine, and I didn't leave it because I hate it, but it comes down to exactly you being your own healthcare advocate, and that is so important. Whether it's Western, whatever it is, if your gut's telling you something doesn't feel right, and it's getting better, and we need to have it, and we're not in competition with anybody. The bottom line is, I have people who I've sent, who I've worked on, who I've gone, you need to go get evaluated now. And because what you're experiencing is not normal, we've worked on it, it's not doing it, because not everything works on everybody, right? Even TBM. I see myself as bridging the gap for people, because use everything at your disposal. It's your health. But you make the decisions, just like you were so brave. You make the decision and saying, no, if I can do something else, I'm going to do it. If it doesn't work, I'll be back. But bravo. I used to have students by my side every day when I was a nurse and a nurse practitioner after I had a year under my belt. And I would tell my students back then, even before I was introduced to all this woo-woo stuff, right? I would say, the day you think you know it all in medicine, please retire because you're unsafe. Because if you think the human body is constantly changing, all of the environment is constantly changing. If you think you know it all, no. And like I said, bodies, I have learned more from human bodies doing applied kinesiology than I ever did practicing as a Western nurse practitioner. So I don't know, we got a crowd out there going, Heather, you need to stop now, please. Thank you.